Hello and welcome. This particular tutorial will enable us to have a quick look at what's involved in producing an astrophoto. Typically I have 5 single images. As you can see there, each particular image is composed of 25 seconds shot at ISO 3200. Now these images are then stacked together to form one composite image, and I'll take you through the process of how to do that in a second. First of all, we'll just have a quick look to see what a single image looks like, and this is a close-up version. Here you can see the Magellanic Clouds, the large and the small. Of course there's a lot of light pollution because I happen to live in the suburbs, as many of us do. So we have light pollution to contend with. As you can see below here, we have all these various images. Okay, and finally, once these images are then stacked using a special program, which I'll show you in a few moments, we end up with a processed image. And after it's processed in Lightroom, it looks something like this. Some of the stars are more defined and more pronounced, and you can see that I've adjusted the light pollution area and applied a radial filter to this image to bring this light pollution down somewhat. So in the next step we'll show you how we achieve the stacking process, and I'll briefly show you how to do that. This program is called Deep Sky Stacker, which is available on the internet, and it is a free program. Fantastic little program for stacking images. I won't go through all the technical processes, I'll just go through the very basics of stacking an image. There's nothing fancy to this. It's a bit of trial and error to see which works best for you. Astrophotography can be quite tricky, and sometimes it's frustrating, but eventually it all comes together. All I've used to produce these images is a Canon camera, a tripod, and a standard Canon lens, and that was all that was used. The post-processing was completed using Lightroom 5. Now initially when we open the program, it looks something like this. We go in and we open our picture file, and it asks us where we have our images, and for me these images reside in this particular folder, so we'll go here. It happens to be Magellanic Clouds, and here's all the images that I've taken. This particular autosave image is the final image that Deep Sky Stacker produces after the images are stacked, so I won't use that one, but I'll use these 5 images that were shot in RAW format, not JPEG. Use RAW when possible because it gives you a better standard of image. Okay, so we'll select these images, and I'll just select those and click open. And after doing that, you can see them that are all stacked, all entered here below. We can go through and of course you've got to follow these steps, and you must check all before we can do anything else. Check all images. Now if I just happen to click on one of these particular images, say this one here, should produce an image of one of the single frame that I produced before. Okay, so it looks okay. That's what it looks like in the unprocessed format, and these are not stacked, so let's begin to stack them together. So we go through to the Register Checked Pictures option and click that. I normally go to Advanced, and compute the number of stars detected. Now you can leave this around about around there for me at this particular time, because there's a lot of stars, and this will detect the amount of stars that the program will look at in the stacking process. So it'll just do a little computation to see how many stars it can find, and then give us a rundown. I mean, this is not necessarily to do this, but it does help in the stacking and processing. So it goes through. This may take a few minutes depending on the speed of your processor. So it's detected 504 stars average. So that's quite okay. I think we can work quite well with that. Now you can go through the recommended settings, or you can use the stacking parameters. I normally go through and go through the process of selecting my stacking parameters. I happen to like the intersection mode. I mean, you can use any of these. I mean, it doesn't really matter which one you use. Sometimes it's trial and error to see which best fit works for you, depending on your images and so on. So I chose the intersection mode. I proceed to the alignment. I normally have the bicubic alignment radio box ticked. I go OK. Alright, so recommended settings. Okay. That seems to look alright to me. Just make sure I've ticked that. That's fine. These are the light frames. I mean, you can go through and you can give them the stacking mode it uses to filter the light frames. You can have the average stacking mode, you can have a medium stacking mode, or the kappa sigma clipping, depending on which one you choose. I particularly like the kappa sigma clipping. Select that, click OK. So once we're happy with all that, we just click OK, and the total exposures of all those images is 2 minutes. 25-second images. So we're happy with that. We'll ask it to process it. So it'll go through each image, have a look at it and stack it, and then produce a final image. It may take a while depending on the type of computer you have and the amount of images. Sometimes this can be quite time consuming, so depending on the computer machine you have, it may take some time. So I'll just stop this for the time being and come back to it when it's all stacked to save time. Now that the program has finished stacking the images, it then produces one output image, and we have it being processed in image stacking. You can use the image stacking Deep Sky Stacker program to process it, post-process it if you wish, but I tend not to use it. I prefer to use Lightroom. So that's the finished stacked version image after all those images have been stacked, and this is what we're left with. So we're finished with this particular image, and we can close it off. We go back and have another look. As you can see, the image has been saved, and here have autosave 1 and autosave 2, and this is the one I used before to make the original image, and I'll just use the second one, which is autosave 001, which is the one I've used in the tutorial for the stacking process that I've just shown you. So we've seen here the final stacked images. These little files are the access files produced by the Deep Sky Stacker program. So after we have the image being processed by Deep Sky Stacker, I mean, you can use Photoshop, but I'll use Lightroom to post-process my image. So I'll just show you quickly what I do. It's nothing really fancy. I'll just go through and have a look at the image, and this is the one I wanted. So I'll just import that very quickly. That's in my library. I go down to develop. I'll just show you briefly the post-processing section. So here it is. Here's the final image that's been stacked in Deep Sky Stacker. Perhaps adjust the temperature for give it sort of a little bit of feel and texture here, so I can play around with these little settings for the color temperature. I normally have the exposure fairly high. As you can see, the definition starting to be seen in the image above, and I can adjust the focus, the exposure accordingly. This was taken in the rear of my premises, and you can see the back of the house and a few trees in the background, and the light from the city in the distance. So we can minimize some of that by adjusting these little settings, and normally play with the white balance a little bit, the whites and so on, and the blacks, and play with those a little bit. So once we're quite happy that we can see some of the images there at the top, we can see that the Magellanic clouds are pronounced and the stars are fairly pronounced. We can still get rid of the light pollution a little bit, but we can play around with that, and it's probably a subject of another tutorial. But quickly, I normally what I do to fix the problem of the light pollution, I use a graduated filter, and I just bring it up. I'm using Lightroom 5 to do this. I mean, you can use Lightroom 4 or Photoshop if you wish. So I've got the graduated filter setting here, and now I can change the exposure accordingly to blend in the rest of those stars that we couldn't see before. So here you can see that some of the stars are coming out in the background. So after we've done that, if we're happy with that, I mean, we can play around with the color temperature if you wish, and some of the exposure, you can play around with that, make it brighter or darker or whatever, and change the color temperature depending on your wish. And after you're happy with that, you save the picture, and there it is. You have a finished image of all those 5 individual stacked images. So it's worthwhile trying it out yourself. It's just a matter of practice, and you'd be surprised at what you can achieve. So thanks for watching.